A second emergency happened aboard the Norwegian breakaway this morning. A father from Long Island suffered a non-fatal heart attack and was rushed to the hospital as soon as the ship had been docked. New York State came in dead last in a ranking of states to retire in. Heavy tax burdens and high cost of living were to blame. The four men who jumped from One World Trade last September pled not guilty to felony trespassing charges today, and that has reignited questions about the security at this site. Trabajadores de comidas rápidas protestarán para aumentar su pago en más de 150 ciudades y 33 países. Quieren que sus empleadores le aumenten su pago a $15 la hora, comenzando la próxima semana.
He said, he says, "This is my job, this is who I am."
Those were Mike Burke's brother's last words. Fire Captain Billy Burke was rescuing a paraplegic man in a North Tower when it came crashing down.
You're hoping for recovery. You're hoping to find the guy. You're hoping to find him in a void somewhere in the rubble, and alive. I mean, you're hoping they crawl out of there, and And as the days passed across, it became more and more clear that wasn't going to happen.
13 years later, Mike still gets choked up, and the transfer of the unidentified remains from 9/11 to the museum hasn't made it easier.
And the remains there, that might be a little kind of crossing the line. Sacred remains in a tourist attraction.
The victims' families call the move a slap in the face. The remains of more than 1,000 victims now sit underground in a basement at the museum. But the families call for the remains to be laid more prominently as a show of respect.
With returning the remains, they're kind of treating the site as a cemetery, as a place of peace and serenity, and and doing so, they have wiped out all history, all evidence and memory of the attacks. I would like, how do we best honor the memory of those who perished there? The unidentified remains were transferred yesterday to Ground Zero, and they remain 70 feet underground. They were accessible only to the medical examiner and the victims' families, not to visitors.
I think that's something that the family should have access to, but I don't know that any visitors should be able to do that. I think it's a sacred place for the family.
It belongs to the family and only to the family. The memorial is enough for me.
The hope is that advanced DNA testing will someday give the unidentified remains a name. In the meantime, visitors will be able to go to the museum starting May 21st. In Lower Manhattan, I'm Sarai Demien.
I want to know how high is up.
Anne Marie Tarr has been living in her apartment for 30 years thanks to rent stabilization. Tarr supports Mayor Bill de Blasio's action to implement a rent freeze in the city.
I am for rent control overall, especially in a city like this. You've got all kinds of classes of people, and when they discriminate, which is what it is, you got a problem.
This would mean a cap of 0 to 3% on one-year leases under stabilized rentals, not on all apartments. Landlords are fighting the measure till the bitter end.
They're greedy.
But tenants see the benefit in having a rent freeze. They would like for it to apply to all renters.
I would love to have rent control and not pay as much. It's a lot, and it's hard to get by in the city.
It's pretty tough. Rents are high at the moment, and so at the moment I'm in a studio and I'm looking for a one-bedroom, and that's tough going.
The first time ever rent freeze will affect over 1 million New Yorkers. The Guidelines Board will vote next month. In Midtown Manhattan, I'm Sarai Demien.